The room that locks itself after you enter there are places that don't wait for permission to change you. They don't ask your name. They don't care about your plans. They simply close the door behind you and decide who you will be when it opens again. This is the story of one of those places. When Elias Cole signed the lease, the agent didn't smile. That should have been the first warning. The woman slid the papers across the desk with fingers that trembled just enough to notice. Her eyes never quite met his. She wore no jewelry, no perfume, no warmth, just the tired expression of someone who had learned not to ask questions. "You'll find the rent unusually low," she said. Elias nodded. He had already noticed. In a city where rent climbed like a ruthless tide, this apartment sat strangely affordable, as if forgotten by time or deliberately ignored. "Is there something wrong with the place?" he asked. The agent paused. "Nothing that violates housing regulations," she said carefully. That answer was the second warning. But Elias was tired of sleeping on couches, tired of working double shifts, tired of feeling like life was a locked door. He kept knocking on while everyone else walked through freely. So he signed. The building was old but clean, its brick exterior stained by decades of rain and dust. The hallway lights flickered like indecisive thoughts. Apartment 317 sat at the far end of the third floor, isolated from the others, as though the building itself had pushed it away. Inside, the apartment was normal, too normal. White walls, wooden floors, a narrow kitchen, a bedroom just large enough for a bed and a small desk, a living room with one window that overlooked an alley where weeds pushed through cracked concrete like stubborn hope, and one door. It stood at the back of the apartment, painted the same color as the walls, but somehow darker, absorbing light rather than reflecting it. No label, no handle, just a smooth metal knob that felt colder than it should. Elias frowned. "What's in there?" he asked the agent. Her lips pressed into a thin line. "A room," she said. "That's it, that's all." That was the third warning. Elias didn't open the door that night. He unpacked, he showered, he lay on the bed staring at the ceiling while the city hummed outside, distant sirens blending with the sound of his own breathing. At exactly 12:07 a.m. he heard it. Click, not loud, not dramatic, just the unmistakable sound of a lock turning. Elias sat up. He hadn't touched the door. Slowly he walked into the living room. The door at the back now had a thin red light glowing around its edges like a heartbeat pulsing through the walls. The knob didn't turn, locked. A chill ran through him, sharp and electric. The light faded after a minute. The lock clicked again, unlocked. Elias didn't sleep after that. Over the next week, the pattern revealed itself. Every night at 12:07 a.m., the door locked. Every morning at 6 a.m., it unlocked, no matter what. Elias tested it. He placed a chair against the door. The chair fell over when the lock engaged. He tried holding the knob. The metal burned cold against his skin and forced his hand away. The door didn't respond to force. It responded to choice. On the 8th night, a note appeared under his apartment door. 3 words, written in careful handwriting: "Do not enter." Elias laughed, a short, brittle sound, of course. That was when he realized the truth. Warnings never come to people who are safe. They come to people who are meant to be tested. The knocking started at 11:59 p.m. soft at first. Polite, then urgent. It came from inside the room. Elias stood frozen in the living room, heart pounding. "Hello," he whispered. Silence. Then a voice. His voice. "Please," it said. "Don't leave me here." Every instinct screamed danger, but beneath the fear was something else, recognition, pain, a familiarity deeper than memory. At 12:06 a.m., the door unlocked. At 12:07 a.m., Elias turned the knob and stepped inside. The door slammed shut behind him, locked. The room was larger than the apartment itself, stretching impossibly wide, its walls lined with mirrors. But these mirrors didn't reflect his body. They reflected moments, failures, regrets. Every dream he had abandoned played out in sharp detail. The book he never finished. The apology he never gave. For the times he chose safety over purpose. Each reflection spoke, you could have been more, you chose comfort, you were afraid. Elias fell to his knees. No, he whispered, I survived. The room responded, not cruelly, but honestly, survival is not the same as living. The floor beneath him shifted, revealing a door in the center of the room. Unlike the first door, this one had words carved into it. Only the honest may leave. Time dissolved. Elias didn't know how long he spent there. Hours, days, maybe years compressed into one endless night. The room showed him every version of himself he had buried to fit into the world. The child who believed, the teenager who dreamed, the man who settled, and finally, the man he could still become. You locked yourself away, the room said, its voice now calm, almost kind. We only followed your example. Elias stood, shaking. What do I do? The mirrors darkened. Choose. Elias walked to the center door. He didn't beg. He didn't deny. He didn't run. He spoke the truth, out loud, for the first time in his life. I was afraid to fail, he said. I was afraid to be seen. I was afraid to want more. The door creaked open. Light spilled through, warm, blinding, alive. As Elias stepped forward, the room whispered its final lesson. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is choosing growth over comfort every single time. Elias woke up on his apartment floor. Sunlight streamed through the window. The door at the back of the apartment was gone, not locked, not hidden, gone. In its place was a blank wall and a quiet certainty in his chest. He moved out 3 weeks later, not because he was afraid, but because he no longer needed the room. Some doors exist only until you become brave enough to build your own. Years later, Elias published his first book. In the dedication, he wrote, "To the room that locked me in, thank you for teaching me how to unlock myself." And somewhere, in buildings like that one, doors still wait not to trap people, but to wake them up.